if I gave you my sound system, let's say some new crew, really keen, they're really enthusiastic, and they want the sound system, cool, have mine. It's the same as me giving that same person a piano and they've never played the piano for the first time.
People, welcome. Today we're really glad and honored to talk to Sinai Sound on his first performance in Belgium. Okay, Huw Williams.
Hi there, how are you doing? It's fantastic. I love it every time I come here. I've been here a few times for fun over the years, but this is obviously the first time I've come to perform, so yeah, really looking forward to it. So I'm lucky enough that I've played in all sorts of different places all over the world, but Belgium's always the one that always passed me by. I mean, so this dance tonight was supposed to happen almost 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, in March, the end of March in 2020, I think it was. But we all know what happened. We all know what happened. So that was kind of annoying because I was really looking forward to coming for the first time. And it's taken kind of everything has to get going again, and then things just naturally progress.
And you told me earlier, like, what an enormous hassle it is to come over here with the sound.
So before, if you think about it, if you wanted to travel from London to here, in distance driving, I think it's less than driving to Scotland. So Belgium is close, but it's so far because of the border. So before, you could just jump on a boat. Didn't matter, just turn up. You could get a booking, oh, can you come tomorrow? Yeah, cool, I'll see you then. And you just get on a boat and you come. Super easy. Now, not so easy. It's still workable, but in this industry, in the reggae sound system world, people are just used to being able to travel all over nice and easy. But now you've got to get a thing called a carnet. It's a list of everything that you want to take, and you can't. And before you leave the UK, it has to be stamped. When you enter into the country, it has to be stamped. When you leave, it has to be stamped. And they might check that list. So before, I could just say, oh, maybe this time I'll bring this effect unit or this equipment or these kind of things. And now you have to stick to the list. It's straightforward enough, but if you've never had to do it before, it's kind of off-putting. And it's expensive. It costs me over £1,000, and that's just for 1 year. Mm-hmm. I've got to renew it in 2 or 3 weeks again for another £1,000.
Right. But at the other hand, since the lockdowns have passed, it seems to me actually like you're doing way more than before abroad than before Corona.
The funny side effect is because now I'm in the position that I know how to do it, people are more inclined to invite me because they know how easy it'll be. So I own my own truck. I kind of quite like logistics. I kind of quite like the challenge. So to me, it's normal. It's easy.
Right.
So I think from someone that wants to book me perspective, they know if they book me, it's just give me a time. I'll be there.
I think you're also really practical because you're here on your own.
So quite often, it might just be me. It might be another person. Three people sometimes. I'll come with my girlfriend Hannah. She'll help me with Jake and Chris and all the crew. But for different reasons, I had to come by myself. But I've made the new system, version 3, easier to move. So it all has wheels, and I have a metal ramp for the van. So I can load most of it myself. I can unload most of it myself. It's just stacking it up is the hard part. So thanks to Eyes Closed and Jah Heavy Load.
Sinai Sound is not a nickel base, I can tell you that. So maximum respect to Huw Williams from Sinai Sound to come to Belgium. Make some noise for Sinai Soundsystem.
This box here, this is a subwoofer. This box here is 115 kilograms. My kicks, these are 55 kilograms, and the tops are 59 kilograms. Now you might ask me, how on earth do I know how much they weigh? I'll tell you. So basically, I've weighed everything. Why have I weighed everything? So my first ever European booking was back with the sound system. It was in 2016. I was going to Bourges to play with Dawa Hi-Fi, and on the journey in England, not the police, but it's kind of like traffic enforcement, VOSA. they pulled you over, and they can do this in England if they see a van, and they weighed me at a weighbridge, and I was overweight. So since that day, I've learned that I've weighed everything, and this is going back to me liking logistics. I've got a spreadsheet with everything in.
Actually, hard to imagine anyone would ever tell you you're overweight.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that put me, I was 5 hours late. I still did the gig because I was traveling the day before. But I can imagine the situation in the UK where maybe I'm running late for some reason. And that's the one day I get pulled over. And I'm overweight. I can't do the gig. And some shows now I do 2,000 people. If I'm not there, there's no show. So I have to be meticulous. I have to make sure that I can get there and everything's all safe. And that's how I know how much everything weighs. Is I've weighed everything.
And actually, the last years, have you been on any places that you never thought before, like you never dreamed like?
It's constantly a dream. I mean, I never intended on building anything like this. I mean, I now have 6 of these. You can see here, more. I think I'm not sure. I can't remember. With the old system, I was fortunate enough I kept getting bookings for bigger and bigger shows. Things like Tellurama in Paris, it was room 2, it was twice the size of this room, 2,500 people. And then Reggae Sunsky in Bordeaux, and they told me that I think it was 4,000 people would do there. I'm like, what? That's crazy. And my old system, as good as it was, I felt like it struggled outdoors in big spaces. So over lockdown, when you're busy every weekend doing things, it's take the sound system, put it in the van, unload it, rest, test everything, take it down. It's just a rinse and repeat. You just use what you have. But in lockdown, I had a chance to actually, can I change it? So it was just kind of an experiment at first, because I get booked for not just dub shows, but other music types. I did a band for Joe Almond Jones and Malaf, a full band, dropped everything, about 1,200 people. And the new system I've got did it way better than the old system could have done. And that's the thing now, I don't just do dub gigs anymore. I do all sorts of different things. So I had to build something that it's like a Swiss Army knife. It could do kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. Could I have built a better rig if I was just doing dub music? Maybe. But would that system have done techno as good? Probably not. And as a person who, audio is my passion, I'm trying to make this my living, and having as many avenues to explore musically as possible. This system allows that, basically. And it kind of just reinvigorated kind of like a passion for doing it again. Because when you've got the same boxes, it's fantastic. There we go. Yeah, no, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. But this is like a new challenge. It's kind of like new ideas kind of thing. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit on the history of Sinai? Because I think actually you're a typical figure in the scene, because I think your goal was never to strictly build a reggae dub sound.
The shortish version is I moved to Leeds after university in 2006, and then I first attended Subdub. The only reason I went was to go and see someone playing drum and bass in room 2. Yeah. Like in Leeds, they have these big posters everywhere in Leeds, and I just saw, I think it was Shy FX was playing in room 2. Cool, I'll go to that. And now I've always liked reggae. The first CD I ever bought was a reggae CD. And I went into room 1, and that's where I heard Iration Steppers. And that's like, what? If you've never heard this kind of music, and then suddenly you hear it, it's mind-blowing. You know, hearing music you've maybe heard before. I remember hearing Pablo Gad, Hard Times. Do you really want to know about how... Yeah, that tune. And the Iration dropped it. And that kind of blew my mind, crazy. And then, cut a long story short, I started to go to the sessions often. I first through the door, taking the session. And that's when he asked me if he wanted to come on a trip to the south of France, because he knew I had a nice car. So we drove to the south of France. That was in 2010 for Parole Dub Splash. And then from there, kind of like hi-fi technology, electronics. It's kind of like, and that's what I'm into. It's kind of I'm really interesting. And I think Iration kind of saw that in me, and he kind of encouraged me and helped. Like with sound system, there's a very particular way that every soundman likes to do his thing, and like it's very trusting to let someone wire it up or do, because if they do it wrong, then it might break in some fashion. So he started entrusting me to do certain things, and that's kind of where it kind of grew. And then just the idea, what if I just built 2 scoops? That was kind of the original idea, just build 2 scoops. Then I thought, I might as well buy 3, because 3 is better than 2. And then it was like, I got given a 4th, and I'm like, I've got 4. What if I get 2 more? I have 6 then, I can do 2 stacks of 3. Or, if I get another 3, I can have 3 stacks of 3. And then me and some friends linked up in Sheffield, and we shared like a unit together, and then they bought the same speakers, and it just grew kind of organically. It just happened. And because of the friends I have in Sheffield and across the UK, because they'd already seen me as a face traveling with Iration, and when they heard I built the system, I know him. So it's a lot of it sometimes is people have to know who you are.
Right.
If they've never met you, then how do they know to consider to book you?
Okay.
So by being with Iration and networking for years, not out of on purpose, just by being around the crew, people get to know who you are, and that's kind of how I kind of almost fell on my feet. I knew the right promoters. The guy that promoted BelDUB in Leeds, he booked me for a show with Deep Medi, the dubstep label, and now me and them guys are like family. I mean, Mala's coming tonight. I mean, it's that kind of vibe, and that kind of set me on that path, like into the dubstep world. And in the UK, it's quite hard if you want to make this is my job, this is my living. I pay my mortgage with the system, and if I want to do just reggae in the UK, it would be quite difficult. But renting it out makes it easier. Some people might say, "Oh, reggae system," but those people often love reggae as well. It's like people always talk about reggae being the foundation for hip hop or being the foundation for drum and bass. If it's the foundation of it, why can't we use the sound system for it? It's kind of almost hypocritical. It kind of reggae sound system set the foundation for drum and bass and these things. And it feels wrong to not. It enhances the music.
Yeah.
And then I've had people come up to me saying they heard my system at some other gig, and then they built it and maybe started playing reggae. It kind of everything helps everything else. I don't really like musical elitism. I don't think it's very fair. Those people work hard on what they do. They need the system.
My feeling is sometimes like the scene doesn't help itself by being so strictly into itself. Like,
Yes.
It's the same like with making music sometimes.
Yes.
I know dub producers that struggle with get a good melody in it or something, while just play together.
It's I was talking to the Jah Heavy Load crew about this. On my free time, I don't really listen to much dub and reggae. This might sound pretty crazy, but there's so much other music out there. I feel like that's more inspiring. Like I'm listening to like John Coltrane and Miles Davis, but then if you do the same thing constantly, it's almost single-mindedness. I like to expand my horizons and hear other things, because it helps you to. By hearing all those things, they're great, but I love this. It almost like makes me know, yep, that's what I want to do. Is this?
Right. Yeah.
It's great, but I love this. There's two kind of situations. You don't have to be. I hate this and it's rubbish and I don't like that. But again, that's my opinion. Yeah, that's my opinion. But you're right. I think I'm not suggesting that you go and have a Gabba party or Gabba DJ tonight. There's a time and a place for everything. But working together, it's like united we stand. People need to work together rather than fighting each other. Things would be accomplished more.
Indeed. Yeah. What I'm curious about also is, are you still active as a producer yourself? Because
so the main production arm of Sinai is my housemate, who I've lived with for over 10 years. He goes by the name of Kid Lib. He runs a jungle label. So he runs a jungle label called Green Bay Wax. It's kind of like real, authentic, produced jungle. But he loves reggae as well. So like when we get a chance, we make music together. That's the vibe. It's not he doesn't just want to make one thing. He likes to make hip hop and likes to make other things. So then he comes back to jungle and is reinvigorated to kind of make it. But again, because I've been so busy with taking this different places, it's hard to try to nail down. But I've been told that pressing vinyl is a bit quicker again. So we're gonna.
Okay.
It was 18 months at one point.
Right.
Apparently to press, but now it's down to about 8 weeks. So we're going to start getting into the swing of things again. But yeah, time is the enemy. Time is always the enemy. Time is the master. My whole kind of ethos is there's no one right way to do something. The beauty of reggae sound systems, if we break it down by using a preamp, music is kind of split into octaves, and each box plays a number of octaves. That's like the point of a system. You split it up to be more because it's easier to play back. And the beauty of a DIY sound system like this is you choose each part of it to suit your kind of flavour, and that's what I like about it. I like joining the worlds. Like I'm always trying new bits of equipment, out to chase some kind of perfect sound. So yes, people know me as kind of like for playing digital, but I've got an analog mastering processor at the minute, as an example, because I think it adds something to the sound. So it's not just digital is the way to do it, and this, that, and the other. I'm looking to getting a full analog amp rack to keep at Gerard Works where I do shows, just because it might be good for other shows, for different kind of music. So experimenting with different things has always been like a real passion. It's like, what's this like? What's that like? What's this like? What's that like? What's this like? What's that like? And I don't think it will always please everybody, but that's life, I guess. I mean, you can't please everybody all of the time. So, like, I'm not bringing any records tonight, but it's hard work loading it into the van, and it's a lot of effort. So a lot of the music, well, not a lot, but I've got a lot of music on my memory stick that I've recorded from my own records. I'll play some of those tonight. And again, because of the previous customs issues that we've discussed, bringing records now can be quite difficult. So, I'd say technology is definitely a passion. Right. And there's one tune that Adrian's Wool put out years ago, a Maccabee tune, and the lyrics talk about being yourself. And I think that counts for a lot. Like I don't put on a fake voice. I'm me. I'm a skinny white nerd from the middle of Wales. I don't have this kind of history of coming from Brixton and sneaking out to dances in the middle of the night. I didn't do that. That's kind of me. I'm not trying to pretend to be someone, and I think that's important for people, is trying to pretend to be something you're not. I think eventually people see through that, I just be myself. I feel like that's the most important thing. Okay. Yeah.
Now I think it's an understatement to say that you're obviously very experienced in audio. Now you might not know, but actually Belgium, we have really a lot of sound systems for the actual size of our country.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
We have a counter on our website, and for the moment it's on like 102.
It's bonkers. Yeah.
That's all people that they might not all be active, but there's a lot of young people building sound also in Belgium. I think all over the world.
Yeah.
And now it's obvious that young sound, they struggle with things because they still need the experience.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might look at the wrong things, like, ooh, I need to have a siren. I should have a preamp. So I wonder, like, do you maybe have some tips for people that are just starting into music? Like,
sure. So it's a good example I try and give to anybody is if I gave you my sound system. Let's say there's a new crew, really keen, they're really enthusiastic, and they want the sound system. Cool, have mine. It's the same. Okay. It's the same as me giving that same person a piano and they've never played the piano for the first time. You need to learn your craft. Now it sounds crazy. How do you do that? Just practice. Don't be afraid to practice. Now I'm fortunate in that I've always had somewhere where I keep the system where I can play with it. And as easy as that is to say, trying to find somewhere where you can keep it and play with it. Maybe not full volume, but somewhere where you can just figure things out. Like, how does this wire work? Like, what's an XLR cable? What's a jack cable? What's a speaker cable? How is it wired? Like literally just figuring things out for yourself is almost the best way to learn them. Making mistakes is a really good way to learn. Hearing other sound systems is a good way to learn. Like understanding what good or bad audio is, but understanding what certain types of bad audio is good for. So certain types of distortion sounds good. You have to know how it sounds good and ways to manipulate that. And the only real way you can learn that is trial and error. I mean, when I first started, I built my control tower and I had it in my house. I didn't even have a sound system yet. I had my Jah Heavy preamp and I literally would figure out what's a send, what's a return. Literally just figuring stuff out. So, okay, and that works, and do like little self sessions, just on some hi-fi speakers. And stuff like that, that kind of gets you into the feel of how things progress. Because as soon as you're thrown into a big sound system arena, it's quite daunting if you're playing another sound system. It's quite daunting. And things like, do I need a preamp? It's like, I don't know, do you? It's kind of learn to try someone else's thing, try to borrow it, try to ask if you can just use it briefly, and you'll understand if it's for you. There's certain preamps I've used that I'm like, they're cool, but I like what I've got. But then you delve into the reggae world of, I want that. Well, you can't. So I have an NJD siren, like an original one, and it took me 15 years to get one. But then that's kind of like buying a Roland 808. You know, like it's like buying a rare synth. Just because you want it doesn't mean you can have it. So that's kind of a hard thing, I think, for Amazon generation. Is you can't have everything next day with sound system. A lot of sound system is patient man ride donkey. You have to just, it takes time to kind of acquire things. You can't just click your fingers and get it next day delivery. An effects unit there, the Seg 3, and while to be fair, his son, Link's, rest in peace, his son's building new ones. That one there is the second one I've seen for sale in about 13 years. So it's just chants, things are chants, and then things like my amplifiers. I've got these PowerSoft X series, but they cost an absolute fortune. They're really, really, really expensive. Should you buy one? Sure. Can you afford one? Maybe. Should you get a bank loan to buy one? Probably not. It's a lot of my amplifiers. So I was using void amplifiers to start with, and I kind of sold old things to hustle the money to get that. But when I wanted to get a new amplifier, which was a PowerSoft, I sold that amplifier, and the money went into buying that amplifier. And then when I wanted to upgrade from that, I sold that amplifier and put money into that. So it's like the money in some of these equipment is years old that I invested, 10 or 15 years old. So it's kind of, it's exciting to see, people like me and other sound systems with crazy priced equipment. And it's actually almost a bit mean because it shows you what you could have. It's just it's almost a bit too far, but it's kind of the natural order of things that if it's to be, it kind of will be. Just take your time.
Right.
There's no quick and fast way, and that's often not looked on quite. People in the scene, they quite like people to be established and almost earn your stripes.
Yeah.
Almost. That's kind of quite
So if I hear you well, you're saying like take your time to test at home and
test the time.
See what you like. Because what I remember I also have a sound, and in the beginning you're really eager to go out and do things, and I also really focus on I need to sound like a sound.
But then creating your own individual identity is what you are. So if you talk about iration, you know what iration sounds like, you know what Channel 1 sounds like. When King Earthquake had a sound system, you know exactly what King Earthquake sound like. And I'd like to think with Sinai, it's its own thing. Like it is that. I mean, the great thing is if you had all the money in the world, you could go and buy that tomorrow. That is actually the cool thing about it. The plans to make these are free. They're on the internet. I'll send you them. It's just they're very expensive. Drivers inside them. But does that mean you should go and remortgage your house or get? I'm in a fortunate position. I get asked to use it a lot, so it's financially viable.
Right.
Because without the income coming in, it's if you're just working a job or working jobs, let's say you're working multiple jobs to pay for it, don't go spending all your money on it. Start small and then build up. There's no, and then if you build a little following, move to a bigger venue, and then just gradually increase. And when the time is right, you'll just know. Oh, good question. So I play from USB. Why do I do that? Because it's easier. Is that a bit of a cop out to an extent? But on Tuesday, I'm flying to Mexico. I can just stick a USB stick in my pocket. It's easy. I don't have to worry about it. It's one of those things where, like, I believe in the format doesn't matter. Fidelity is what matters. The quality of the sound. Just because you're playing CDs doesn't mean it's going to sound good. And because you're playing records doesn't mean it's going to sound good. There's so many kind of variables in playback that decides what it sounds like. Let's use Jah Heavy as an example. I mean, big inspiration. He plays on a computer and has done for 20 years since he started Sound again in the 2000s. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll play records. It just depends on my mood. There's no... The vibe and how you portray yourself is the most important thing. So as an example, is a preamp needed? I don't know, maybe not. It depends on your style. But if you're just coming into the game, a simple DJ mixer will probably often suffice. Just getting used to plugging things in and gain structure and signal flow and how to entertain a crowd, musical selection. These are often more important than the actual equipment itself. Like, I use a Sage preamp. I'm lucky enough to know the builder. Should you go, but he stopped making them. Should you go and spend £3,000 on a second-hand one? I don't, probably not. That's a lot of money. You could build a lot of boxes for that money, and then you've got the boxes. They're the sort of things where it's nice to have in the future, but they're not an integral part of a sound system. Let's use Mungo's Hi-Fi as an example. They never used a preamp. Jah Voice, when they were still going, and they never used a preamp. It's not an essential thing, and they can be quite complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's like playing an instrument. You've got to almost muscle memory on how to do it, and some of it goes back to me talking about knowing what good sound sounds like. I'm still learning now about hearing frequencies. Like I had friends in school who learned to play the piano, classically trained, and they could hear what notes were. Oh, that's F sharp. Or this kind of thing. I'm getting better, but it's just practice. I know how to EQ that out. Stuff like that is important. So again, with the preamp, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you can sometimes see people almost struggling to get it to sound right with maybe a DJ mix. Traditionally, do people have one? Yeah. That's the interesting thing about this game is tradition often determines people's attitudes to things. But I think being yourself is sometimes more important, or creating an identity is sometimes more important than that, I think. Yeah.
Now I'm really looking forward to hear you finally play in person tonight.
Thank you.
I just wondered, my last question, how's the summer looking for you? Are there any big things coming up?
Yeah, so off to Dub Camp again, which is quite exciting. It's quite rare for sound systems to be booked in successional years in Dub Camp. They like to mix it up. So after last year, being asked to come back, really, really exciting. That's really, really good. And we're doing Boomtown Festival in the UK again, which is an amazing, amazing festival. The production quality is out of the world. Lots of varied types of music, but our stage, Tangled Roots, like a link up with Line Pulse, we get to play it really, really hard, which is rare in the UK. It's very rare, but they're as loud as we want it, so that's exciting. And a few other things coming up that I can't really talk about yet, so yeah. Okay. Keep an eye on Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Huw.
Pleasure, my
It was a
pleasure.
pleasure to talk
Thank
to
you, my pleasure. Big up everyone.
Have fun
Respect.
tonight.